Hi, it's Shelley here from Client Nectar, and today I want to talk to you about how to sell like a pro. Because I know that selling is something that so many business owners are really nervous about and they feel uncomfortable with. And there really is no reason to feel that way because when you are selling, you're actually doing people a service because you're helping them to solve their biggest problems. And so, really, in reality, what you're offering them is the opportunity to really achieve what they really want in their life or their business, or to solve whatever the issue is that they've been struggling with, possibly for quite some time. I wanted to talk to you about how to sell like a pro today because I've recently taken on a sales team for my business. And I found through that experience that it's really brought me back to the basics around how to sell like a pro. It's brought me back to the basics of what authentic selling is all about. And you might think to yourself that when you bring on a sales team and you bring on some sales professionals into your company, that it's just all smooth sailing and super easy. But in reality, there's a lot of preparation work that goes into making sure that your team are really able to sell in the way that you want them to sell. So it's really representing you and representing what your company is about. And at the same time, they understand how to sell you and sell your products. And that is an art in itself. So I've put together a few tips that I think could be really helpful to you, even if you are selling your own products and you're not trying to train, your sales team to sell for you. And I thought that it would be useful really to help you overcome maybe some fears of selling and just know how to sell like a pro. So I'm going to run you through a few of my tips. So the first thing really is to be very clear on exactly what it is that you're planning on selling. Okay, you want to make sure that you're going into your strategy sessions with prospects, knowing what you're selling, knowing how that item that you're selling, that service or program or offering is the best solution to your prospects' problems. And so that is my first tip. Just be clear on what it is you're actually planning to sell on the strategy session. My second tip is to do some preparation work ahead of the call. So prepare for the call. And there's a lot of different elements that are part of preparing. But one of the things that I always do is I take a look at my prospects' details. I take a look at their website if they have one, their LinkedIn profile, just so I can get a sense of them. I look at what they've written on their form when they've booked or applied for the strategy session. And so I really think about who they are, what they're struggling with, what they might want, and are they a fit for me to be able to support them with my offerings? Would I be able to help them? So I go through that process, and I'm aware of who I'm speaking to before I get on the call with them. Another tip that I have is to have a plan for the actual strategy session. So don't go into your strategy session not knowing, not having a script, not being sure what you're going to say or what you're going to ask. I always make sure that I plan out the questions that I'm going to ask on my strategy session, and it's the same for my sales team, my sales coaches. They have a clear script of what questions they're going to ask in order to help the person that they're speaking to really understand what they're struggling with most, what the problem is that's holding them back, in whatever way it is, whether it's in their life or whether it's in their relationship or business or whether it's actually, something else entirely. And then also some questions around what they want as a good outcome. What would be the best solution to the problem they're currently experiencing? And to make sure that you have those questions that allow you to really go deep into the pain, but also then deep into their vision, their outcome that they want. And this is going to help you get a really good sense of what the gap is between where they are now and then where they want to be. And you can see when you get that gap, you identify that gap with them on the call, you can be clear then of exactly whether or not your offering, your service, your product is going to solve the problem that they have and lead to the outcome that they want. So that is a very important tip. It allows you to take people from being interested in you to actually wanting to buy from you. Another tip that can really support you with selling like a pro um, is to be clear on not coaching on the call. So I see this a lot with people who come to me, especially coaches, that when they get on a call with a prospect, they just give too much solutions. They give away the entire farm. And then the prospect goes away from the call thinking, I don't need to buy anything because I've got everything I need in order to make the changes I need to make. And what happens, of course, is that you know that actually the person still needs you because they need help with implementing the solutions that you've told them about. But unfortunately, the prospect thinks that they have the entire solution. They feel like they're full, they've got everything they need, and so they don't buy. So the key thing here is that when you're on a call, you want to make sure that you don't coach. Actually, what you're doing is you're just really supporting the person to better understand what the problem is that they have, what the outcome is that they want, and to be able to see the gap between where they are now and where they want to be so that they get motivated about overcoming their issues and achieving the outcome that they want. That's what your aim is. And of course, also you want to be asking questions that allows you to work out whether there's someone you want to work with, whether you feel that it's a good connection for you to offer your services to them. Okay, so that's a super important one, and most of us fall into that trap of trying to provide solutions and giving too much away basically on the call. And then of course we're not really serving the person we're speaking to because they don't really understand that actually they need our help still. They can't do this on their own. So what do you do when you get to the end of the call? Well, another tip is that, if the person starts to say they say they've been all really fascinating and interested in working with you, and they say, I'm really, tell me more, tell me how I could work with you, tell me more about your services, and you tell them, and then they start to say, oh, I don't know whether I can afford that, or I've got this and this on right now, I'm not sure I can start. That's when actually the work begins in a way. That's when really for you the time is to not just take on board the story and go, okay, well, that's it, but actually to explore with them what it is that is their concern around, I don't feel I can afford it. Just ask them the question. So would it be okay if we just explore that for a moment? Tell me a bit more about the fact that you don't feel you can afford this right now. Tell me more about that. And so you're just getting them to explore what has come up as the objection, because 9 times out of 10, when people are bringing an objection, it's usually because there's a fear underlying it. And it's the fear that has been holding them back from achieving the solutions that they want all along. So this is what's been holding them back. So actually, it's really for you as the person leading the call to really support them through those objections that they have. So of course you need to know that you want to work with them, first of all. So check in with yourself and check in that you want to work with them. And if you do feel that desire, then yes, you want to spend some time exploring with them, what their objections are and why they're coming up with them. And if they say, I want to think about it, then that's an opportunity to say, can you tell me what it is that you think you need to think about? Because maybe I can answer some questions for you. So don't just buy into the story that you're being told. Allow yourself to see the story as an opportunity to explore. Okay. Another way to sell like a pro, another tip for selling like a pro, is just not being attached to the outcome. And this I know is probably easier said than done, because if you're in a place where you really need the client because you need the money, then it's very easy to get into that sort of place of feeling quite desperate. And so you start pursuing the person instead of allowing them to pursue you. And so what I really encourage you to do is to make sure that before you go into the call, you're really in a good mindset place. So you've done some meditation, you've grounded yourself, and you can really be there and really listen to them in an open space, as opposed to from a place of, I need to get this client. Okay, so that is a super important element, because you really want to be there to be of service, and the client or the prospect will feel it if you're there in a place of, I need to get this client, okay, in a place of what I call desperation, okay. And when you can stand back and you can be in a place of service, that's when you can invite pursuit from them. That's when they're going to feel the spaciousness to come forwards and say, actually, I really want to work with you. Okay, so finally, my last tip is to follow up, follow up, follow up. It is super key to follow up with people that you have calls with. And of course, if they are wanting to think it over and you've explored that with them, schedule a call with them for the next day or a couple of days later, so you don't leave it too long. And so you're getting onto another call with them to see if they want to go ahead with working with you within a very short space of time. Okay, and if they don't want to have the call, then still make sure you follow up with them, and allow yourself to not be afraid of reconnecting and say, so have you had any more questions? Would you like to have another call? Just touching base, thinking about what they brought to the call, what the problems were that they discussed. What can you send to them that would be really helpful to them? Maybe you've got a resource or a video that could be really supportive. You can follow up and send that. That's going to be very helpful. Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed my tips for selling like a pro. I just wanted to share them today because this is something that's I've been seeing a lot of, this happening with clients of mine. Some clients quite nervous about selling, and I just thought, you know what, let's put this video together and just give you some tips that could really help you with getting over some fears of selling and starting to sell like a pro. All right, bye for now, guys.